Yet again, E3 has been cancelled. It's now been 3 years since we've had an in-person event from what used to be the largest and most significant games show of the year, and I don't see a path for it to return anytime soon. Prior to 1995, game publishers used electronics conventions like CES to show off upcoming titles. As the gaming industry grew in the 90s, people felt that it was outgrowing the more traditional trade shows. According to CEO of Sega of America, Tom Kalinske, the CES organizers used to put the video game industry way in the back. In 1991, they put us in a tent and you had to walk past all the porn vendors to find us. That particular year, it was pouring rain, and the rain leaked right over our new Genesis system. I was just furious with the way CES treated the video game industry, and I felt we were a more important industry than they were giving us credit for. That was the last year Sega would attend the trade show. CES would attempt to improve relations with the gaming industry, but ultimately failed to convince anyone they were really turning over a new leaf. The idea of starting a trade show dedicated to video games was conceived by GamePro magazine creator Pat Farrell. GamePro was owned by market research company International Data Group, who had experience in running events like the Macworld convention. Only a few months later, CES decided to cancel its video game event and surrender the space to E3. May 11, 1995 marked the first event and was held at the Los Angeles Convention Center. While some were skeptical of the turnout, by the end of the weekend, there had been more than 40,000 attendees, marking the biggest ever event in the games industry. In the following years, E3 would continue to grow and be the event to announce upcoming releases and consoles to the masses. It was like Christmas in June for gamers who got a sneak peek at what was to come in the next 12 months. I personally have many fond childhood memories of watching G4 TV's coverage of the event and laughing at some of the more awkward presentations.
This is not originally hack and slash anymore. This is an extreme hack and slash title.
They're so cool. Alright, make me look good now. Alright. Yes!
Alright! And of course behind me here we have a professional drummer who's been performing for us this morning. His name is Ravi Drums.
Lightsaber on!
I am here to talk about Need for Speed Payback. If you guys didn't know, Need for Speed Payback, yeah, it's a great game.
When Nintendo started to emphasize E3 less and less, favoring its own Nintendo Direct format of presenting directly to the consumer multiple times a year, I saw the writing on the wall. This was clearly a more convenient method of getting the message out, for both them and their fans. The Directs proved to be wildly popular, to this day garnering millions of views on each livestream. Eventually, the other members of the Big Three, Sony and Microsoft, adopted their own versions of this, Sony's State of Play and Microsoft's Xbox World Premiere. Sony dropped E3 altogether in 2019, while Microsoft actually stuck it out till the bitter end. E3 still chugged along in the background each year, though relying on much less interesting showcases from the likes of companies like Ubisoft. Of course, the 2020 pandemic caused a full-stop cancellation of the event, and while it returned virtually in 2021, it was completely cancelled again in 2022. The official reason for this was COVID, but I'm not sure why they didn't just have another online event like the previous year. I feel like the real reason was lack of interest, which is exactly what they've cited now in 2023. It seems that no one cares anymore, and in the era of live streams we currently live in, I suppose it just makes sense. In a lot of ways, the Game Awards has become a new way to premiere game trailers to the world. And the Nintendo Direct format is honestly pretty great. After all, hearing about new games through the words of a games journalist was never preferable anyways. It's just the feeling that we're really at the end of an era. Obviously, the gaming landscape today is indistinguishable from what it was 20 years ago, but this kind of highlights it in a way I didn't think would feel so sad. What are your thoughts? Do you have any favorite moments of past E3 conventions? I'd love to hear them in the comments. Until next time, I'm Crispy Johnson. Thanks for listening.